like a lot of the craters you see over there near the Terminator, now they've filled up, and so they don't appear so. Now it's down at the bottom of your screen by that little white dot.
Roger, we see it very clearly. We assume that's the Sea of Fertility that's over on the west limb.
That's affirmative.
Apollo 12, Houston, we show that you're coming up at about 1 nautical mile a second. You're really moving out.
Okay. We had talked about it on the backside of the moon just before the burn. We only put in 3,000 feet a second, and we were going a little over 5,000 feet a second around the moon. And we were talking about how it didn't seem like very much additional velocity to get to take you away from the moon and head you on back to Earth. And I guess this low gravitational field here will just allows you to not put in a lot, escape its sphere of influence pretty readily.
Right, your velocity is dropping off at about 1 foot per second each second. So you needed all you put in.
Roger, that's a lot less than our velocity dropped off per second when we left Earth. It, of course, was trying to pull us back much harder, and so we ended up slowing down from our 36,000 feet per second much more rapidly. You could look at the computer and see that the velocity was dropping many times that per second.
Roger, we were watching you down here.
Today, while the picture taking was going on, three of us had the opportunity to discuss what we thought the texture of the surface was, especially because we were interested in our landing area and possibly finding some Copernican ray material and looking at the rays and everything. And they aren't quite readily visible from 60 nautical miles. But if you look at them carefully through the binocular or something like that, I think that the difference in texture is so slight when you get actually down on the surface that Al and I had the impression on the lunar surface at our landing site that we just could see no contact difference whatsoever anywhere we went. And I think that as you look at the moon going away, you get that idea. You see highlights in whites and grays, you can see rays and things like that, but they're really not that much difference in color from one another.
Roger. What about the white and gray differences you saw over around the west side of Head Crater? Could you see those out over the regional area?
Well, I kind of have the feeling that, and Al and I talked about this, that when we were in the right place and our foot tracks turned up the lighter material, and it was still the same material, it's just that hadn't weathered on the surface. And we have the feeling that the ray material is probably the same thing. It's pretty much the same general material, but it came at different times and it's had different amount of exposures or weathering.
Roger.
Yeah, well, this is, there just didn't seem to be any difference in the colors at all. If you look at any part of the moon at the same time as any other part of the moon. Now, as we started at the terminator and went around the moon, it changed color from gray to white, finally to brown, and we all sort of thought that was about what it was. And then the next day, it did the same thing. The part that used to be more to the white, now it was the gray because the shadows were over there more as the terminator moved in that direction. And we weren't able to see, except in several spots, any real large differences in colors. I'll tell you, Pete, can you show them that large crater down there in the lower left hand? Here, Bunner. No, it's way over here on the opposite side of the terminator. There's Tycho. Can you show them that one? The one with the cracks, several craters in the middle. That's a beautiful crater.
Hey, just to give us some idea of the color, how would you
TV and all shot.
how would you describe the color of Smythe Sea and the Sea of Tranquility for us, so we'll know how accurate our TV color is?
Just seems a chalky gray to us.
Like Portland cement?
Pretty much.
As good as anything else.
I want to know whether it's wet or dry.
Dark brine material. Someone looks wet. Would you believe that?
Not
As a
very
matter of fact, that's probably not too bad a description. If you just threw some Portland cement down and threw water on it, varying amounts would be a little more moist than others, and I get the same idea looking down here.
Yeah, the wet part, of course, would be the darker brine material that's there, and it is lightened considerably by rills and craters and ejecta that's been taking place there. This giving it a lighter texture, but basically remaining the same type of material, I'm sure.
Hey, listen, tell us about those grooves and ridges you saw on the surface. Did you get any patterns out of those? Could you see those from orbit?
Let me tell you. I'll tell you. Mr. Brown.
Hey, 12, is that the subsolar point?
Don, once we saw...
Sorry to cut you off
It's
there.
a very bright impact crater, yeah. Also, the sea just to the south of that bright impact crater is the one that in the middle of it are two craters. One crater has a single ray that runs horizontally all the way through it, and the other crater has a single ray that just runs out one side of it. Very odd set of ray patterns there.
Roger.
I'd say, Don, you were asking about those lines. We don't. The ones we saw on the ground were very, very small, maybe an eighth of an inch. But there are definite patterns on the moon. I'm going to show you up at high latitudes right now. Let me see the monitor, Pete, so I can see if I'm pointing the right place. And I think you'll be able to see some lines that seem to run from the pole all the way down towards the center of the moon, towards the equator. Let's see if I can get them in the right place. Are you able to see that, Don? It's right. It seems to emanate right from the pole region, right where the terminator strikes the pole, and then they seem to come down towards the Mare area. They seem to run in parallel lines from that point on down.
Roger, they just barely show up on our screen.
Did you get a look at the crater Tycho? That's pretty impressive because it's large, it has a lot of rays, and it also has, although the rays at this particular sun angle aren't so visible, you can see it as one of the larger craters down in the southern part of the moon, easily visible from Earth. In fact, it's one of the most visible from Earth.
Roger, we didn't know whether that was Tycho or whether that was a subsolar point.
that's Tycho. And also that crater just to the north of it, which I don't know the name of, is also a very white crater. It appears very white on our little monitor up here.
Roger, we see it very clearly down here, too.
There you are. Let's move it to that attachment. It's a better wind speed. Take a few more pictures. My gain looks okay. Stop. There, you got it now.
That's a very impressive picture.
Okay, I got the monitor, Pete.
Okay, Dick just
A little bit
maneuvered
higher,
to
a little
get,
bit higher, please.
so that we could, I can't hold it any higher.
Okay.
Because it's at the top of the window. Dick just maneuvered so that we can see the whole moon, and that's it now. We have the whole moon out our window.
We've got a good picture of that. You know, the most amazing thing is that you were just in orbit down there a few minutes ago.
More so than us, and I'm sure you, Don.
I'm sure that's true.
We're getting that sort of detached feeling, detached from the moon. Can they see it as a whole sphere now, Pete?
You're cutting out just a little bit of the south.
Yeah, it's in the, I just can't move the camera there in the window.
No, you're doing a great job.
Pete, well, I keep the camera up and down the same way all the time. Like,
That's about the most I can get in right now, and we're going so fast, though, that I think it'll all show up in there in a minute.
Oh, that's beautiful. We can see all the way, of course, to the western limb, and the north terminator about halfway down to the south.
say, are we coming out in the Earth-Moon plane here? Are we going over the top or what? We were just discussing this and wondering, it's not, it's not obvious as we leave what we're doing. My guess would say we'd be coming right out along the equatorial plate, but what are we actually doing?
We'll get it for you just a second.
That's a magnificent sight.
Hey, listen, while we're getting that, since you're the international experts on lunar rock rolling, how does that work? Tell us what a rock looks like when it rolls down a lunar crater, since you did some of that on Earth.
Well, it goes very slowly, and I guess the impression you have, the same way as if you throw something up there, and we had occasion to throw some things away, they sort of move out, not too rapidly, but they just keep going. And that's exactly what happens when you roll a rock down the side of a crater. Once you can get, it was hard to get them going. I was surprised. I think everybody had the idea up there that because you're in such light gravity, that things would roll down rather easily, and that really wasn't the case. once you got it going, it just sort of went along in animated slow motion, but it kept going for a long, long time.
Do they bounce, or do they dig in, and do they go through just down to the bottom?
Well, they bounce and slide, a little bit of everything, just like they do on Earth, but just stretch it out. I found that I couldn't walk. Wherever we went, we loped, and it just didn't seem natural not to lope. But when you lope, it reminded me of these pictures, high-speed motion pictures of watching a giraffe run or something like that. That's just a feeling I had as I loped across, because I'd have to step out and then just sort of hold what I had till I came down. And that's the way Al and I moved around on the whole traverse.
Sounds like you're having a ball.
If you could pitch down the little board, help Pete a lot.
Well, Al accused me of making him carry all the tools. He finally said that he wound up with all the ones that I had too, and then I was just running around in front of him. But he's probably right if I think about it.
So the funny thing about moving around on the lunar surface, you put on this pressurized suit we wear, and you try to do it on Earth with even close to the weight you have on your back on the moon, and you get tired very rapidly from the walking, and you don't have to walk, over, let's say, 200 or 300 yards, and you're ready for a rest. But on the moon in the light gravity, with the same suit on and the same weight, your legs never seem to get tired. Now, I guess when you run up the side of a steep slope, you could do it, but just running around on level ground, you seem to assume some sort of a normal pace, and you're able to go for long distances without your legs getting tired. The suit doesn't always want to bend like you want to bend. For example, it bends pretty well at the knee, and it bends pretty well in the ankle, but it doesn't want to bend up near the thigh, the top of the thigh. So what happens is you tend to run with straight legs, land flat-footed, and then push off on your toes. And you think to yourself, well, I'm going to tire out my calves pretty soon because I'm not used to this sort of thing. But apparently the force it takes to push off on your toe on the moon is much less than you just have when you walk or run on Earth, so your legs just don't seem to tire. You can move around rather easily, don't you think, Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the doctors, because I haven't any idea, but I'm sure that our heart rate stayed fairly low even when we were loping. I don't think we approached anywhere near the heart rates that we had in just our normal walkthroughs and practices in 1G back in Earth. And I agree with Al. You could go 8-9 hours out there and see what we had. The other thing that we did, which I think was kind of interesting, everybody got worried about falling over and going down slopes and things. And I fell over once up there, and there wasn't any big problem. And we just finally, to expedite things, we'd either just fall over on our face, pick up the rock, and give ourselves a one-handed push-up, or just get down on our knees and get whatever it was we needed to pick up down there. Because we picked up many rocks that were bigger than the tongs would pick up.
Roger, your heart rates were just about as expected, and the report is that you're just about in the Earth-Moon plane, just a very small bit out of the Earth-Moon plane, but almost coming straight home. Also, we are about to lose one of the satellites that's bringing this TV back to the States, so we're probably going to have to bid goodbye here fairly soon.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
Why don't we just, we'll zip inside for a second and say hello to everybody, and then you can shut her off.
Very good.
Okay, I guess we're ready if you're right side up now.
Real fine, Pete. It looks good. We can see all three of you. We see Al Bean slipping in on the side there. First of all, I'll read you a little statement, and then we'll start off with the questions. The questions that you'll be asked in this news conference have been submitted by newsmen here at the Manned Spacecraft Center who've been covering the flight. Some of the questions they raise will have been answered in your communications with Mission Control, but the public at large has not heard them. The questions are being read to you exactly as submitted by the newsmen and in an order of priority specified by them. So here comes question number 1. If you had this mission to fly over again, or were planning another with your present knowledge, what would you do differently, and what equipment would you add or modify, specifically in connection with the EVA? Over.
Well, I think we'd work over all the tools and the tool carrier and the bags. I think we'd work over just about all of it. I think it was very good, and I think it operated very well, seeing we'd never been there before and attempted to do that kind of work. Now that we've done it, I think we can make some improvements on it. I'll let Al talk about it. I think you were about hit it, Pete. I think the PLISs, the OPSs, and the suits, as far as their operation on both EVAs, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. The tools are going to be a little work.
Okay, troops, here comes...
Jerry?
Go ahead.
If I had it to do over again, I'd have wagered a little more with all those people and said I would never be able to find a limb on the lunar surface. In fact, if I'd have been that smart, I'd have found a surveyor also, and I'd retire.
Roger, Dick. Okay, here comes question number 2. Was there some confusion about something you said yesterday about the launch into the thundercloud? Would you or would you not consent to launching under those conditions again?
I'd go again. We made it this time, why can't we do it again? Concur.
Okay, troops. Question number 3. Aside from the lightning, what gave you your most apprehensive moment, if any, either before the lunar landing, during your time on the moon, or afterwards? And if you never had an apprehensive moment, was there ever a time when you may have been a little bit concerned over what was going on?
Well, how about the liftoff all the way through to GET of 224 hours, 14 minutes and 30 seconds? Yeah, that's a pretty good answer. No, I think really all three of us were a lot calmer through most of the flight than I thought we'd be, or any of us thought we'd be, except I think both Al and I were a little bit nervous about ascent. After all, you only got that one engine. And I think we were a little tweaked there right down towards T0 on liftoff for the ascent stage. But once it got going, it was going so well that it really didn't concern either one of us after that. The only time I can think of is one time when we were walking around on the lunar surface in the second EVA. I felt my foot pressure kind of pulse, and that bliss is so good that you never feel any change in pressure as you walk around or move around or jump up, down, or anything else. This one time it did, and I took a quick glance at my foot pressure gauge because I thought maybe it was building up or decreasing. I had some sort of problem where I would have to use the OPS, but it wasn't. The gauge was just right, and that was the end. That was the only time it occurred either. But that gave me quite a pulse there for a second. Well, I think from the command module side of the house, Jerry, everything has gone according to plan and as expected. I think the best thing about my end of the operation is that there have not been any surprises, and I like to put it that way.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. No surprises. Pete, now question number 4 is for you. Out there on the moon, you sounded happy, even euphoric. Some people think that maybe you were on an oxygen high. Were you? And for both you and Al, how did it feel subjectively to be out there?
No, I was very happy that I wasn't on an oxygen high. I was very happy because all the work that we had put into that EVA was beginning to pay off. And once we got over the initial stumbling block of the one little problem we had getting the fuel cask going, why, I was quite happy because we were on a timeline everything was going the way we thought it was going to go, and I was just having a ball because it was much easier than all the 1G practice we've done learning how to do that.
Yeah, you're asking about how it feels. I think for about the first 10 minutes that you're out, at least in my case, you find that it's not as hard as you think it's going to be to move around. And you're pretty happy about that, but you could sense that first 10 minutes you still want to be careful, and you don't want to overextend yourself. So you're sort of excited trying to get up to speed, get your balance in good shape, and get your movements in good shape so you can start doing the work. And once the first 10 minutes is over and you sort of realize that you now know how to hold your balance and you now aren't going to fall down and everything is working real well, I think right then you start getting down to the operational part of it, and after that you just press on and get the job done, like Pete said.
I was in a good humor to start with, seeing we landed next to the surveyor. That started the thing off right.
Okay, question number 5. On Apollo 11, Armstrong and Aldrin had to curl up in the corners of the LEM to sleep and complained that they were cold and uncomfortable. You had hammocks and blankets. How did you sleep? And on the subject of sleep, a lot of people are wondering whether you dreamed there on the moon.
Well, let's take them all in order. In the first place, we didn't have any blankets. We had the hammocks. And as you may or may not remember, about a week before the flight, we found a problem on the boot of my backup suit. And all 4 of our suits were sent back to the factory, and the boots were replaced. And in the process of doing that, the suits had to be re-rigged when they came back to the Cape. And I had to fit my suit without the liquid cool garment because both the flight ones were already packed, and you can't put a non-flight one in a flight suit. And I had the legs got a little bit too tight. So in my hammock that night, it was too dirty in there. And in my hammock, I was very uncomfortable. My shoulders and the suit was pressing on the bottom of my feet and my shoulders. And sounds funny, but even bending your knees or anything, you can't get rid of that. If the suit's too short, it's too short. Or it's about a half an inch too short. So I bared with it most of the night, and I only slept maybe 4.5 hours, mostly on account of that. And then Al very kindly the next morning let my suit out for me, and which took him about an hour. And so that's about how I spent my night. And to answer the dreams, I don't dream normally anyhow, that I can remember, and I didn't dream there.
I didn't dream either, and I don't know. I didn't sleep too good on the moon, not because we were cold or hot, because we weren't. We had both a liquid cool garment on, and we had air running through our suit. And so if we got a little warm, we could either turn on the water pump and get a little cool water run through your suit, which would rapidly cool you down, or turn on the air and get a little air running through your suit to cool you down. So using those 2 controls, I think Pete and I stayed just about the temperature we wanted to stay. And the hammocks were very comfortable. It's interesting that if you rig them on the Earth, and they're pretty long, and you say, boy, when you get in that, it's really going to sag. But when you get on the moon and you only weigh about 30 or 35 pounds, and you get in those hammocks, I was looking at Pete up in his, you don't hardly sag a bit. You just kind of lay there almost horizontal. Real comfortable place to sleep.
Roger, Al, and you didn't dream either, huh?
No, I didn't dream a bit. I woke up and went back to sleep a number of times. Another interesting thing, people have worried about the amount of sound in the LEM bothering you. It's fairly noisy in there, and there's a couple of pumps that change frequency every once in a while. But all in all, I don't think that was any hindrance to sleep. Do you, Pete? No. The 16G is nice. It just keeps, it pushes you down enough so that you feel pressure on your back or your side or wherever you're laying. But it's not enough to really give you any pressure points in the suit. I think 16G is nicer than either 0G to